Welcome back to the channel. Today we don't have a car to review. I know, but we're going to talk about project cars, alright? Because believe it or not, as guys who love cars, we just want to buy cars, destroy them, and say that we're trying to make them better. So, if you happen to be looking for a project car and you just don't know which one to get, hopefully this video is going to help you. I considered a lot of things when we were making this video because when you're broke, you just happen to consider everything that you do. Don't worry about budget, don't worry about aftermarket support, don't worry about tuning potential, because everything has been kind of considered when I was making this video. Number 5 on today's list is the 1992 Honda Civic Si hatchback. Now, the car comes with an inline-4 making 124 horsepower and 106 pound-feet of torque. Now, initially, that is not bad for 29 years ago standards, but because of its light body and light frame, the car only weighs 2,326 pounds. For normal people, like us I'm sure, it's 1,055 kilograms. I'm 200 kilograms away from being that weight.
Yeah, that's not funny.
This is good. Let me tell you guys a quick story. Once upon a time, this car was the pure definition of a sleeper. Now, I'm not saying that it's not anymore. It still is, right? But you see, these guys came with very little money and very big dreams. They have managed to turn this car into the car that is most likely to embarrass you on the streets of Mexico. The Honda Civic Si hatchback is also very cheap to run and will cost you little to maintain. I did a little bit of research and went onto popular American sites. Now, I know you probably don't live in America, and trust me, I don't live there either, but the world revolves around America, so look no further than there. I wanted to keep it budget friendly, and that's the reason why kind of this car is number 5, because it could be a little pricey, assuming that you want one in a good condition. So you're looking at anywhere between 5 to 8K, you know, depending on how lucky you are and how hard and long you look. Number 4, the Honda Acura Integra GSR. And what does GSR stand for? It stands for Grand Sport Racing, which is kind of like the M of BMW or even the RS of Audi. Now, there's many different trims. There's even a Type R, which is the GSR but on steroids. The only reason why we're not going with the Type R is because it's on steroids, and we don't like steroids, right? Steroids are bad for you, and so is the Type R, because it's very expensive, and once it breaks, it's just gonna kill you. The GSR is by all means a great car. It's got a VTEC under the hood, so you know it's gonna be durable, and you can beat the engine up all you want. It's got an inline-4 that makes 170 horsepower and 128 pound-feet of torque, and it comes with both auto and manual, but you should avoid the auto because a lot of people complain about it. And, you know, like me, as my parents say, I'm the problem child. And so is the auto transmission, so just stick to the 5-speed manual. The GSR has okay aftermarket support. You can find some used OEM parts on the Facebook Marketplace if you just look hard enough. The only reason why I put this car over the Civic is because you simply don't go out and buy it because you saw a cool video on Instagram. And some people find it ugly, which will give you a very, very, very frustrating challenge to prove otherwise. Let's just look at things this way. Is it reliable? Check. Is it easy to maintain? Check. And most importantly, is it fun to build? Check. And if you're looking to get one with under 100,000 miles, you can find it for around 6K. However, if you don't mind going higher in mileage, you can spend anywhere between 2K to 5K, obviously depending on the condition. Number 3, the Ford Mustang New Edge. Now, I know a lot of people might ask why though. Like, why is that better than the Honda Civic? Well, I'm gonna tell you something. It might seem a little biased, but it makes sense to my tiny brain, okay? Here's the thing. The JDM car scene is just so overrated nowadays.
Why would you say that?
It always has been since Fast and Furious came out. But let's go with something a little American. New Edge means 1994 up to 2004, and you should go with the 1999 models and above because that's when it was redesigned and given sharper edges and body lines. There's no shame for wanting the V6. I mean, I've got the inline-4, so I'm in no position to speak. But if you do have the chance to get the V8 for the same price as the V6, you should go for it. The Mustang GT has a 4.6 liter engine that makes 260 horsepower stock. Yeah, stock. And 300 pound-feet of torque. You also get a sweet 5-speed manual transmission. And as far as aftermarket support goes, you know Americans, once they make something and it sells, they just make everything related to it and they sell it as well. So you got tons of aftermarket support, you're good. And it's fairly easy to work on, and it's also cheap to maintain. But obviously it's never the most reliable, which is fine because if you have a reliable project car, then you did something wrong. Start over. Pricing is a little broad when it comes to the new Edge Mustang, obviously depending on the condition and how much work you're willing to put in. You could be paying anywhere between 3K and 7K. Unlike most cars on this list, this one doesn't necessarily look like a sleeper, but it sure is a fun car to drive and modify. Some people are happy with the power it makes stock, so they just slap some eBay body kits on it and maybe some recoil and some overly expensive wheels, and people seem to have genuine fun in these cars. So if you're looking for that American muscle power for not too expensive, the new Edge Mustang is for you. Moving on to number 2, the BMW E46 4th Gen 3 Series from 1997 up till 2006. And unlike M3s, this is not going to put a hole in your wallet. I'm joking. It is a German car, so it is going to break on you in ways that'll make you want to cry. All jokes aside, the E46 is a great choice for those who desire a great looking car that is somewhat affordable and probably one of the more reliable cars when it comes to BMWs. Millions of trims and engines when it comes to the E46, but to make your life easier, you can get it with an inline 4 that makes 113 horsepower all the way up to an inline 6 that makes 333 horsepower. So you can pick and choose depending on what your wallet can afford. One of the upsides of the E46 is that BMW has made a lot, so you will be able to find them easily and cheap when you go looking for them. However, these cars are starting to disappear off the shelves like toilet paper when COVID was at its prime. So hurry up and pick one up for yourself, because as they go, they gain more value, and because the demand will be high, the supply will be low. And like Shakespeare said, doubt though the stars are fire, which is exactly why you should be looking at one of those cars for yourself. You got great aftermarket support, but most E46 owners like to go with an expensive exhaust and an expensive set of wheels and very, very expensive suspensions. But you know what? Just like Shakespeare said... Oh, no more? Oh, let's move on. In terms of pricing, I can't really give you an estimate because it all comes down to condition, trim, year, and engine. So it really is up to you what you look for, but you can find some pretty cheap stuff for as cheap as $1,500 and all the way up to $25,000. On to number 1, the Mazda Miata, the Mazda MX-5, the Mazda Roadster. And just like it's got many names, it's got many functions. It's one of the best track cars, it's one of the best autocross cars, and it's one of the best I went to the grocery store and bought a pack of milk cars, because it's very small and it's got very, very, very little trunk space. Mazda Miata is a go-kart that is street legal, which is pretty nice. But before we talk about anything, you need to know which Miata you need. The NA Miata that comes from 1989 up till 1999, and from 1989 up to 1993 you get yourself a little 1.6 liter engine, and from 94 up to 97 you get a 1.8 liter engine. So most people tend to go for the 1.8 liter engine because theoretically speaking it's better because it's a bigger engine and it's a little less old. The Miata has gained stupid popularity over the past few years because of how cheap and easy it is to work on it. You have a lot of Miata owners installing turbos on a car that was never intended to have a turbo. Now, just imagine trying that on a BMW. Aftermarket support of this car is unbelievable. You have many different websites that are just made for the Mazda Miata. Now, this just goes to show how desired and loved this car truly is. Let's be honest, if you're looking for crazy horsepower gains, which is possible with the Miata, but it's just better to stick with other cars on this list. Miata is cheap to maintain, it's easy to work on, parts are cheap and available, and you also have a massive community of Miata owners that seem very cool. As this is the end of the video, I hope you enjoyed it. We're going to be uploading much more often from now on, so stay tuned for that. And if you're new here, come on, give us a little subscribe. And see you guys soon.